Hi everyone and welcome back to CodeNodes. In our previous videos, we have covered the conditional statements briefly. In today's video, we are going to start a new topic and that is called iterations or loops in C++. Imagine if you have to print numbers from 1 to 100, then you have to write the cout statement 100 times. That's a lot of code. So to overcome that repetition, we use iterations or loops in C++. So an iteration is the repetition of set of instructions. It is just a fancy word we use for repetition. Instead of writing the same code multiple times, we let the computer do it for us. And for that, we use the control structure called loops. And there are three types of loops in C++. While loop, do while loop, and for loop. Now let's start with the while loop. So this is the general syntax of while loop, starting with the while keyword, following the condition inside the parenthesis. While this condition is true, this part of the code will be executed. Here in the example, as you can see inside the parenthesis, we have used the condition num less than 10. While the num is less than 10, this part of the code will be executed. While the num is greater than 10, then it will be exit from this block of the code. Now let me show you an example by writing a piece of code. Let's move to the code editor. Now this time I will be using Visual Studio Code for writing code. You can still use Dev C++. For my convenience, I am using this. If you want me to create a video on this, how to install and set up this Visual Studio Code, tell me in the comments. I will make a video on that. Now let's start writing code and let me take a variable integer type num and initialize it with 5. And if we have to generate a multiplication table of this num up to 5, then we have to write 5 multiplied by 1, 5 multiplied by 2, 5 multiplied by 3 and up to 5 multiplied by 5. So how we do it in C++? So we have to write it like num multiplied by 1 handle, and we have to do it 5 times. So num multiplied by 2, num multiplied by 3, 4 and 5. And to compile and run this file, here we are using this GNU compiler, G++. So we will write the G++ and then we will give this source file name, which is in our case while loop.cpp. And if I press enter, now you can see it has created an exe file with name A. Now if I just give the file name A here, a.exe, and press enter, now you can see it has printed the output in the terminal. Now there is one thing more you can do while compiling this. You can specify the file name. So you can specify the output file name. For that you use -o, and I want to specify the exe file name as while. Now if I enter this, now as you can see it has created a exe file name with while. Now if I run this while exe file, now as you can see it has printed the same output. So you can specify the name in the terminal while compiling the file, and you can just compile it with the source file name. So you can do both. Now as you can see, there is a lot of repetition of code. The cout statement, we are writing it again and again. Now let's generate the same exact table using while loop. For that, let me take another variable int I and initialize it with 1. This will be our counting variable. Now let's start with the while loop, and here if I is less than or is equal to 5, then execute this code cout num multiply by I and then increment the value of I by 1. So now as you can see, we are using this I once for checking the condition and second for multiplication purpose, and in the third line we are incrementing it by 1, so that in the next iteration we again use it. Now before running it, let me dry run this. So in the iteration number 1, now as you can see the value of I is 1, which is less than 5. So it will be executed. So num is 5 and I is 1. So 5 multiplied by 1, which is equal to 5, and the value of I is 1. After incrementing it by 1, in the next iteration the value of I is now 2. So this time num multiplied by 2, which is num multiplied by 5, and num multiplied by 2, which is this time 10. And the value of I is now this time 2. After incrementing it by 1, the new value of I is now 3. So in the next iteration, the value of I will be 3. So here in the third iteration, the value of I is now 3. So it will be 15. And here the value of I is 3. After incrementing it by 1, in the next iteration, the new value of I is now 4. So num multiplied by 4, which is num multiplied by 4, which is now 20. And the value over here is 4. After incrementing it by 1, the new value of I for the next iteration is now 5. So num multiplied by 5, which is this time 5 multiplied by 5, which is 25. And here the value of I is 5. And after incrementing it by 1, the new value of I for the next iteration is 6, which is not less than 5. So the loop will exit here. The value of 6, when it becomes 6, the loop will exit. So if I print it over here, cout value of I after loop is I and L. Now as you can see, this is our dry run result. Now if I save it and if I again compile this and run it, now as you can see, it has printed the multiplication table up to 5, and when the value becomes 6, it has exit from the loop and this line has executed, and this time the value of I is 6. Now let's test it for 10. Let's generate a table up to 10. So if I give it a value of 10 over here, and if I again compile this and run this, now as you can see, this time it has printed a multiplication table up to 50, and the value of I after the while loop is 11. So this is the example of while loop. Now there is one more thing you need to keep in mind, that what if we comment this I++ and if we do not use it, and if we compile and run this, compile it and run this, now as you can see that it has been printing 5 infinitely, because every time it checks the I is less than 10, so it executes this and goes for the next iteration. So the I is again less than 10, so it will go into the infinite loop. So to control the loop, we use this increment variable over here. So when you use this, and if I compile again this and run this, now as you can see, it has controlled the loop up to when the condition is met, and when the condition is false, it has exit the loop and print this statement. So this was it for today's video. If you find the video helpful, give it a thumbs up and do not forget to share the video and subscribe to CodeNodes.